Waleed, can you talk to us a little about the possible, there seems to be a gap, some people say, between the English translations of what goes on inside these mosques and the actual Arabic teachings of what goes on in the mosques. Are they the same, or is there something different? I mean, is the Arabic an important part of what to understand what's going on in here?
I'm documenting a litany of statements made by several Muslim leaders in a book that I'm doing titled Doublespeak, in which I explain the actions of what I call the Islamist Trojan horses. You will find tremendous amount of information of what is said in the English language is absolutely totally different than what is said in their own language. Even if the imam is a Turkish or Afghan or different language, they speak in the language totally different what they say in the English. You could see that even in Germany in history, which you had Imam Sheikh Tabrisi, who is a Sufi Muslim, who says in the Turkish language, translated to the English, glory and blessing to the Lord of the two worlds, who is the cause of these days. Definitely the victory belongs to Islam. What's he talking about? He continues to say, this flood of people here are a sign of the glorious Islam. And he goes on to talk about how the Ottomans ruled one day and how the West will bow to Islam. When you hear these kind of imams speak in the English language, they say things totally different. They talk about bridge building. They talk about peaceful Islam. They condemn terrorism. You find Faisal Abdul Rauf also with a litany of statements in even articles that he written in Jordanian newspaper, like Al-Ghad newspaper, talking about how he supports terrorism. When you see him on Western media, they say, well, he does not want to condemn Hamas. He's pleading the fifth. But when you look in the Arabic language in his article, he says, people asked me right after 9/11 attacks as to why we call these organizations Hamas, Hezbollah, the Party of Allah. Why use Islamic names to these violent movements? And I tell them this, that the spark of law and justice begins in organizations like these. Those are absolutely emphatic statements openly supporting the terrorist agenda, openly supporting Hamas. And this is why I always like to make the argument. You had Anwar Awlaki. Anwar Awlaki, he got on TV and NPR, he says, I condemn terrorism, I want bridge building, so on and so forth. Yet today, there seems to be American military drones looking for Anwar Awlaki, wanted, dead or alive. So what is the difference between what Anwar Awlaki says in the English and what Faisal Abdul Rauf, the guy behind the Ground Zero Mosque, says in the English? They say the same exact things in the English. And in the Arabic, they say the same exact things. Except Faisal Abdul Rauf is a slick willy. He says, I will do this by a political act. Same as Abraham Hooper of CARE. They want to do it by political act. They was asked, what do you think of Islam in America? He says, I don't believe that we should spread violence, but I will do it through peaceful means or political means. So we need to focus on the political side of Islam. Even you have Rashad Hussain. I was looking in the media on things he made statements in Arab media, which was never published in Western media at all. And he was interviewed in Al-Ahram newspaper. Rashad Hussain is the speechwriter for President Obama. He's the one that wrote the speech for the historical speech that Obama did in Egypt. And he was asked by the editor of Al-Ahram newspaper, why don't you intervene and suggest things to the president about the Iranian situation with the nuclear? And he did not answer. And the editor continued to say, well, he's not commenting. And then he persisted again. He says, are you going to intervene since you're right by the president to do something about the Iranian nuclear situation? And he said, I will do it when the right time comes. Well, what's that all about? Why would the speechwriter of President Obama be interfering in major issues like this? Yet those things go on in the Arabic news media, and nothing is being said anywhere in the West